Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Local Lures. This is one of my favorite series that I do on the channel, and it's something that I haven't done in a long time. Now, if you're not familiar with my local lure episodes, what this is me showcasing some locally made baits from the tournaments I went to. So when I was just at Clarks Hill, I stopped at a couple of bait shops and found some pretty cool locally made lures that I ended up having to buy because they were cool. So I'm going to feature them here. This is an episode that I like to do, or a series I like to do when I go to lakes. I stop at the bait shops, and if I see locally made lures, I like to talk about them. Now, unfortunately, last year, I don't know that I made any local lure episodes because of the fact that none of the bait shops carried anything that was locally made. One thing that I find is a lot of bait shops will carry the national brand chains because those are the ones people are familiar with. If you come in from out of town and you're looking for Berkeley products, most bait shops will carry Berkeley or Strike King or any of the name brand stuff because everybody around the country is familiar with it. Versus a local lure or a locally made lure doesn't have that same national brand reputation. And I think a lot of times the out of towners will stay away from what they're not familiar with and buy what they are familiar with. I, on the other hand, am the opposite. I like to buy custom made stuff. So smaller company made products. A lot of times I think they're higher quality. And at the same time, the smaller companies are able to produce baits that just have different features in them that a lot of times the bigger companies can't produce and make profitable for them. So I'm always looking at the locally made stuff. Plus, you can learn a lot of times what the fish in those lakes in that area are eating. You can tell based on what people are making from that region what the fish are eating. So I'm always looking for it. Now, I will say in this case, I stopped at two, they were bait shop gas stations around the Clarks Hill, and I was pretty disappointed in the bait shop selection in itself. They had not a whole lot of tackle, but they did carry most of it was stuff that was made in that region. Now, I will say they both carried a ton of greenfish tackle, which is made, I believe, in South Carolina. Great company. They make really nice stuff, but at this point, in my opinion, Greenfish Tackle is a national brand. They have gotten what I think is pretty large. They've got a ton of products out there. So I wasn't going to purchase anything from them because they're just too big to be considered part of the local lures series. But there were a couple that I found that I want to talk about. I've got here a handful, and then at the end, I've got kind of one that's really unique that I really want to talk about because I think it's going to be kind of the future of fishing lures. So let's dive into this. Before I do that, I do want to remind you guys, though, that if you're looking for additional content from me, you can check out my members only content where I have a couple of additional videos a month. We do a monthly live stream. You can have direct contact to me to ask me your questions. That's all through the YouTube membership, which you can find on my YouTube homepage. Also, if you're looking for some help on your local lakes, check out the lake breakdowns that I do through Fish the Moment. We provide 40 waypoints on the lake that you're looking at for a specific season, provide lots of different patterns. Just a good way to help you catch some fish or help break down the lakes that you're going to. So the link for that I'll put in the video description. All right, so let's jump right into this. The first one that I want to talk about, it's called a True Track Lure Company. This is the Lionel Hollandsworth's legendary True Track Lure Company. This is made in Groverton, Georgia. And their website is www.trutraclures.com. It's True Track Lures. And this jumped out at me right away. I guess I'll leave it in the case so you can see it. I'll just pull it out. So it's the most pink buzzbait I've ever seen. So here's the case. This is the buzzbait. Again, this is looks like bubblegum color, 3000 is probably the number on it. I'm seeing this is the 3/8 ounce size. It says lifelike creations of nature, custom design lures Lionel Hollandsworth's legendary True Track Lure Company. So this jumped out right away at me. First off, based on the colors, you can see here, this is a very much a bubblegum colored bait. But really what jumped out on me wasn't just the fact that it was pink, but it's a metallic pink. I don't know if the video is going to show that really well, but it is very much a metallic colored pink, which I truly love. Like, to me, that gives off a little bit of a shimmer, which gives it a little bit better reflection. But this was something that just jumped out at me. I love fishing buzzbaits. Initially, it looked a lot like a Boogerman style buzzbait. If you're familiar with that, that's one where it clacks on the head of the buzzbait. Now, in this case, it's not set up to clack, but I think you probably easily could make that happen. The skirt appears to be very high quality. Again, there's like a shimmer in the skirt. It's very loose, a very limber skirt, so it's a high quality skirt, which I really like. It is a thicker strand skirt, but it appears, again, to be very limber in that it should have good motion in the water. What I really like about this blade is the sound that it makes. Now, again, this is the only one I have, but if they all make this sound, it's pretty impressive. And what I mean by that is it's already got a good squeak to it. You hear about people that, put buzzbaits on their car antenna, put buzzbaits on their deck, and they let the wind just, completely grind it down to the point where the buzzbait squeaks. Because a lot of the top buzzbait fishermen say you want a good squeak or a squeal to your bait. And that's what this already does. It's already got like a chirping sound to it. And I don't know if you can hear it, but it's got a mixed chirping sound. It's already got that used buzzbait sound, which is something you don't get a lot of times. A lot of times with a buzzbait out of the package, it doesn't create any sound at all. I end up playing with it to try to make it squeak. But in this case, it's already got that good rotational squeaking sound. So I was impressed with that. Again, like I said, for me, the biggest thing here is just the overall color of it. I've never seen a full pink buzzbait before, but not only is it pink, it's like they nailed the color. And as soon as I saw it, I said, I gotta buy this. This is something that I definitely want to try. The hook on it is a very good, sharp, stout hook. It's a high quality buzzbait. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a revolutionary buzzbait, but it's a very well done buzzbait. Like, that's what comes down to it. So, and there were a lot of these there. So I think these are pretty popular around Clarks Hill. The True Track Lure Company, again, is www.truetracklures, TRUTRACLURES. I'm very impressed. I'm looking forward to throwing this. I'll probably be putting in an order through the website for a bunch more if I end up catching fish on it. Just again, because you don't see this colored buzzbait. And there were a lot of really cool color combinations. You go a lot of places for buzzbaits and you're talking about whites and blacks. Nothing fancy. In this case, the buzzbaits they had there had a lot of really cool color combinations. And that's one of the things that I really like about small companies. They're willing to put the time in to create, very different colored skirts. A lot of the big companies have to put in a huge bulk order for certain color combinations of skirts, and therefore that limits them to a lot of the most popular ones. With the small companies, they can compile the skirt themselves, and therefore they can put one strand of one color in, 5 strands of another. It may take them more time, but they realize it separates them from a lot of the other companies. So that was a cool one. The next one I want to talk about here, it's called Why Not's True Life Lures. And I believe this is just called just the Why Not. I don't know if there's a bunch of different names or this is the only bait that they make. These were made in Appling, Georgia, which is right where our tournament was taken out of on Clarks Hill. On the back of the package, it says, True Life Lures originated from handmade live molds, which give all the baits the true life profile. We offer true gills, true shads, true backs, and true lizards. It says, to use with a Carolina rig is a floating rig on a jig head. It also says a skirted spinner bait rigged with a true life bait used as a trailer can lure the real lunkers out of hiding. And at the bottom, it says, the unique True Life side added to the flat planer side provides live bait swimming action and injured bait falling action. So based on that, it sounds like they take the real fish and create a mold of it. And in this case, this is what we have here. You can see it's just a cool looking, this is what I believe to be their shiner profile. Hopefully you can see it. There is like a scale pattern on it. On the back, it says, why not? Not sure if you can see that on there. But what I saw, so when I saw this, I thought of a couple of cool uses for it. Now, one thing I want to point out too is that it's like the tail is hollow. So it's almost like it holds air. So it's like an air pocket. And I think that probably allows it to have a different falling action, maybe a little bit of gliding motion. But I got to tell you, the first thing when I saw this flat profile was not about using it in any of the techniques that they had, but to rig it on my hover rig hook. Like when I saw that, I thought to myself, that flat profile is just going to glide all over the place on this thing. So, you know, I'm excited to give it a try on the hover rig. You know, this is kind of the style of bait that I'm looking for to increase the gliding motion. And I feel like this could be something that definitely will work on the hover rig. So I went ahead and picked up a bag of these. Again, you don't see this shape around much. You know, it's a very unusual shape in a bait shop, but I definitely could see it working as a chatterbait trailer, as a spinnerbait trailer, as they suggest, or just fishing it almost like a fluke or on a hover rig. Definitely a neat little concept bait that we're going to give a try. This is called Why Not's True Life Lures. They do not have a website on here, but my assumption is if you Googled Why Not's True Life Lures, you would probably be able to come across their website, made out of Appling, Georgia. So those were the two baits that I picked up in local bait shops. The last baits I want to talk about were actually made by my nephew who lives in Atlanta, so Georgia, locally made. But what's totally unique about what he's doing, and he's pretty well eaten up with a fishing bug, 15 years old, Jack is his name. He's really, really eaten up with it. But what he's doing is creating lots of different baits. So in this case, this is a jerk bait. This is a double buzz bait. He's got single buzz baits. He's actually got a frog that is something that I'm blown away by. And I think we've got some really good potential with that. But what's cool about these guys is that these are printed with his 3D printer. Like literally one row at a time. It's all one thing. You don't add any of the additional parts. They print the blades right on the arms of the buzzbait. It's extremely impressive what he's doing. And it just makes me think, like, what are the possibilities out there with a 3D printer? Like, how is that going to be the wave of the future? Are we going to see people printing baits? Like, I recognize that it's a good way to go about making a mold, but is it something where this is just going to be like a standard thing where people create the design and end up just setting their printer to go and print them off? I don't know how cost effective it is. I don't know what it costs to print these off. I do know it's relatively time consuming. It takes him several hours for his printer to make these, but it's just extremely impressive to me that he's designing fishing lures at home with his 3D printer. So to be able to do that, I think is impressive on his part, but it just makes me think, what is the potential for this in the future? Now, you know, he's been catching a bunch of fish on the baits that he's designing. I'm excited to give him a try, just to give him some feedback. But I think you're going to see this become more of a common thing in the future. So even though this is not something you can go and buy at the moment, it's not a lure produced for sale, I'm willing to bet you we see this pop up in the next couple of years where people are creating 3D printed lures. So just wanted to give a shout out to locally made lures. In this case, this is my nephew Jack who's printing these off, but it was pretty impressive when I went and saw it. I think there's really some good possibilities for what he's doing. So that's today's episode of Local Made Lures, otherwise known as Local Lures. If you happen to live in the Clarks Hill area and there's some other locally made lures that you want to mention, throw them up in the comment section so that other people can go check them out. If you are interested in either of these, I assume you can go to their website and make a purchase. I'm sure they would be appreciative of that, and I'm looking forward to giving them a try. So stay tuned. Hopefully we can do a local lures episode for each of the events. The next one we're going to is Lake Eufaula in Oklahoma. My guess is they probably got some good tackle in that area as well, so we'll probably be able to make another local lures episode. Anyways, if you enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned, new episode coming out tomorrow.